I'm going to show you how to make these delicious, easy and gluten-free baguettes. They are lovely and crusty on the outside and beautifully tasty and moist on the inside. Let's go. So for this recipe, you need 350 milliliters of water, 7 grams of dried yeast, 200 grams of gluten-free bread mix. Dove's Farm white bread mix works extremely well. Then you need 80 grams of buckwheat flour, 70 grams of teff flour, 20 grams of chickpea flour, 12 grams of psyllium husk powder, 5 grams of salt, and 20 grams of olive oil. Also, really make sure you use a digital food scale. Gluten-free baking, especially bread baking, is very tricky and it's a lot easier if you've got very precise measurements. So the first thing you need to do is put your water in a bowl, add the dried yeast and sprinkle with just a little bit of sugar. Then let it stand for about 5 to 10 minutes until the yeast is activated. So while the yeast is activating, you can take another bowl and mix your flours in there. So that's 200 grams of gluten-free bread mix, like Dove's Farm flour. And then we're going to add 80 grams of buckwheat flour, 70 grams of teff, 20 grams of chickpea flour, 12 grams of psyllium husk powder, and 5 grams of salt. When you've got all this, just make sure you give it a good mix. So now, as you can see, the yeast is activated. You see all these nice little bubbles on the surface. We're just going to add the olive oil. That's just 20 grams of olive oil, and then we add all the flours that we mixed just now. And now we're going to give this a really good mix. And there you go. As you can see, thanks to the psyllium husk powder, it really comes together very nice and easily. So we are now going to let this rise for about an hour to 2 hours, preferably in a nice, warm, humid environment. I like to put it in my cold oven with a bowl of boiling hot water, and then I close the door. It creates a nice humid environment and the bread rises beautifully. Let's go. So once the dough has risen, you are going to need a baguette tray like this one. If you don't have one, there's a link in the description of this video. You can click and buy one. You can find them on Amazon. They're not expensive at all. What I do is I put some non-stick baking paper on this because gluten-free bread is tricky. It tends to stick. So for me, I find it a lot easier to just put some non-stick baking paper. In theory, you don't have to. This is a non-stick baguette tray. But if you don't use non-stick baking paper, I would really highly recommend to brush it with quite a lot of oil, right? But the easiest is just put a piece of non-stick baking paper like that. And then you are going to take pieces of dough and make little baguettes with it. So here's what you need to do. You need to simply take little bits of dough. Because there's a lot of psyllium husk powder in it, it's not sticky, it's super easy to make small baguettes. I tend to work with a small quantity of dough and make kind of little baguettes, which are almost more like big buns, right? But you could work with a bigger quantity of dough, of course, if you wanted to. So simply just pat it like that for a little while until it's about like this, right? And then you simply just put it on your baguette tray. And you're going to do this with all your dough, right? And there you go. Once you've got your baguettes, just cut a few little lines across like that to make them look like real lovely baguettes. And now we're just going to let them rise again for about 30 minutes. So there you go. After about half an hour, preheat your oven at 180 degrees and bake for about 35 minutes. And there you go. Look at this. This is what they need to look like when they come out of the oven. When you tap them, you have this kind of nice hollow sound. They're crispy on the outside and nice and moist on the inside. I'm going to let them cool down and then it's going to be tasting time. Okay, and now it's tasting time. I'm going to cut it in two, just like that. Look at this. It's just lovely, beautiful, tasty on the inside and moist and nice and crusty on the inside. Listen to this noise. So now to go with this morning we get to have a brunch. So I have some bacon, eggs, some melon and some homemade apricot jam. I reckon it's going to be delicious, right? Oh my goodness, it truly is delicious. I hope you enjoyed this video. Now go ahead, test it out. It's so well worth it. Quick reminder, you do need a baguette tray for this recipe. If you don't have one, you can order one online really easily. It's quite cheap. There's a link in the description of this video. Just click the link, go ahead. It will be in your house in no time. If you have any questions about this video or if you have any special requests for another video of easy and gluten-free bread or anything else, please let me know in the comments below this video. If you enjoyed this video, I reckon you'll enjoy this one next. Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.